Yeah. Baby, yeah. You know, say ready for this. You know I have patience.
You know, I you know, but you mentioned. So I'm so impressed with you, Shelly, and I'm honored and privileged to have known you, to have met you, and to have known you all this time. I really am, and I ask that you forgive me for the lack of communication on my part. But now we're going, just for your viewers who are watching, we're gonna have a podcast. We're gonna have Shelly on here talk about whole, but so just be ready. So when we met, one of the programs that you shared that was very impressive that I didn't know about was AVID, right? AVID.
Oh yes.
Right, and it's a program to help students prepare for college and careers.
Yes.
My question to you, as you're speaking in reference to, in light of the protests that are happening today, walking down the block, gathering people, you know, speaking to the injustices that are taking place in the world, having that impact as far as a group of people, but also young people who have been known to have an impact in making a change or having an influence in the civil rights movement. My question to you is, what led you or what drew you to AVID? How did you know about it? What drew you to it? What was that process about?
Hold on.
I got it. I got it.
No, you didn't. You did. We live, so I'm trying to figure out how I can be a mother at the same time. Okay, I'm sorry. That you didn't get me. It was, I heard a noise and it didn't sound good, so I was trying to figure out, how do I be a mother live and keep it professional? No, so it's funny about the AVID program. Actually, it was a girlfriend of mine who was working at AVID, and they were looking for an assistant, to be honest with you. And I had already worked in nonprofit. I worked in education, and they were doing some work on the regional level. And so she asked me if I wanted to join. And from joining, I learned a lot about what AVID did, because I really didn't know much about it other than the fact that it was a education operation. And then when I got there, I was like, oh wow, they do a lot that can be replicated. And then they also do it a lot in the South. Since then, I think they're national now. It's been some years. The other part where you caught me is that I was like, AVID, that was like 2000, like I'm old, man. So you kind of got me, and then you didn't get me, because I was like, girl trying to be a mother on this live line. They might as well be like, now she Clark for real.
So
be like, girl, you don't turn that TV on. No, okay.
So with that said, I did some research on you. I know my personal relationship with you.
Yeah.
And I told Kyle how impressed I am with you. You already know that already. But apparently, I'm not the only one that you've had this impact on. Apparently, you helped turn around one of the worst performing schools, if that's correct, in the Citizen Schools New York portfolio, by building relationships with administration and teachers and creating a positive environment for your staff. How did that come about? Where did that come from? What motivated you to do that? Did you ever want to quit? I mean, how were you able to turn around that school, I guess is
Yeah. Wow, you going all the way back. I wasn't ready for this one. Okay, so Citizen Schools, New York. It was in a gang, kind of like a gang zone, this type of student that they bring in. So the school is located in a very rich area, but they bus in students from these gang-infested communities. Did I ever want to quit? Oh God, some people might see this. No, actually I did not. What I will say is that I'm a Southern girl to my heart. And so going into the North, if you will, so we're gonna put this all in context, right? From New York. So I'm Southern. How y'all doing, people? Me too. And you know, I'm smiling at everybody and waving because it's a beautiful day. Right. And everybody's like grilling me, like, what's up with you? What's wrong with her?
Right.
So I can remember walking in. Okay, let me go back. So Citizen School actually had hired me for a position in North Carolina. But by the time they got to me, I had already accepted a position in Boston. So maybe like a year later, because of my experience in Boston, I decided to come back home. They called me and said, we have this, it's a temporary assignment. It's in New York. We need somebody to basically come in and clear house. So I can't remember who exactly it was, but it was somebody who I formerly worked with said that, and this is about to be really embarrassing, she's really good at clearing house. Like, she'll go in and fire people and get stuff together. So that's kind of the reputation that I had, which is not necessarily the best reputation. Anyway, so they, to not get into trouble, but essentially the organization was looking at trying to save the grant. And one piece that they were looking at was kind of doing a restart by changing out the staff and redeveloping the agreement between the school and the organization. So that's the best way I can say that. Anyway, so my role was only supposed to be 6 months, just enough to keep the program moving forward. What I will say about that was that when I went in, my first moment was like, what's that movie? Lean on Me.
Yeah, Joe Clark.
And Joe Clark. I will always remember it was kind of like an in-cage school, and there were different levels, and the vice principal was walking us around, and all of a sudden the police just came running out of nowhere, and students was running out. I was like, what is this going on? A fight had broken out. And I was like, ooh, and I had never been in this. Look, I get close. I had never been in this type of public school environment. So I was like, what? And the vice principal was yelling, get them, get in the classroom, lock the doors, shut down. And I was locked down. I was like, what is this? And they kind of got things calmed out. They had arrested some people because the middle school was attached to a high school, which is a whole nother situation, right? In that same meeting, there was a kid that was there who was concerned because there was some gang members that was walking around the school waiting for this individual to come out so they could dump them. So they had to call in a special task force, to kind of clear out the space. Now, what was going to happen to that student wasn't really sure, but this was kind of a part of like my introduction. So I was supposed to be interviewing at this time, but this is the introduction to my interview. So the lady comes in and she's like, with her little walkie-talkie, she sits it down. She was like, so you from Georgia? You think you can handle this? And I was like, no. Literally, I was like, no. I said, but I was like, I'm willing to try. And so she gave me the rundown of the school and, the type of environments that these kids are coming out of. Now, again, I'm from the South. I'm used to kids, being picked up by somebody and putting them in a car. In New York, I have fifth graders getting on the train and making their way home, and because it gets dark at a certain time, walking blocks, and they going through these different gang infested things. And the concern for the teachers was, are they going to make it to school the next day? And I just remember her saying, don't ever leave the kids in the classroom by themselves, no matter what you do. So there's like tons of these stories, right? But at the end of the day, I was up for the challenge because my mentor at the time had told me, what's going to excel you and make you different is having the experience and working in a different region. That's gonna make you really understand what best practices you want to bring back to the South and back into the schools that you're working in. You want to have a broad view of life. You don't want to just have a Southern view of life. And that's what makes great leaders great, is that they function. If you look at CEOs, they function in so many different areas and so many different opportunities that they could talk exquisitely about culture. I'm Black, but I'm a Black Southern, as opposed to you might be Black that's a Northern from New York, as opposed to somebody that's Black that's in California. Our experiences in some ways are similar, in my opinion, but at the same time, the culture and what we're exposed to is different. I can just remember a fifth grader, I'm about to get explicit, so you might end up editing. She was upset because her boyfriend broke up with her because she would not let him perform, and she was a 5th grader. And I was like, what? And I was shocked because I was like, you're a 5th grader. Now, mind you, I had worked with 5th graders before, but this was the conversation, and it was an 8th grader who should have been a 9th grader. But he was an 8th grade. She was like, but I love him, Miss Rochelle. And I was like, well, how do you know you love him? And she was like, because, I mean, he's all that. And I was like, well, make him all that. She was like, he has a bike. I was like, he has a bike? And she was like, yeah. Because in New York, apparently, for her, having a bike is a mode of transportation. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, well, is he going to be a basketball player? And she was like, well, no, he can't play sports. I said, well, is he good at school? She was like, well, no, he failed 2 times. So I was like, but you love him? Girl, bye. But it grew me up, right? It started to grow me up and get out of my comfort zone. I can remember my 8th graders, the teacher left the 8th graders in the classroom. And I can always remember this. This is my funny story, and I'm going to cut it off. I saw the teacher, and I was like, are you not in the classroom? And she was like, no. And you can hear all this noise. I started running down the hallway like, no, you cannot leave them in the classroom by themselves. And I get there, and the kids, they jumping all over, they throwing stuff. 2 boys are getting ready to go fighting. And out of nowhere, the adrenaline got to me, and I started yelling. I was like, sit down. Sit in your seat. What is wrong with you? Like, I'm yelling. And so they looking because, you know, I'm deciding, hey, everybody, boo, love you. And I'm like, sit in the seat. And I don't care. And I think it was like 3 of them that your brother was engaged, and they were like looking at me, and I was like, you can get it if you want to. Get me after 5 o'clock. I'm gonna be outside and we can handle this. Okay? But for right now, while you on my turf, you're gonna do what I say do. Sit down. And so, you know, I'm getting it in order or whatever. So finally, after about an hour, me yelling and, you know, one bracing up on me, and I was like, I'm not gonna call nobody. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. All right. So sit down. You don't want none of this today. So I went through all of that, and then the teacher came back in there, and I was like, now you handle this class. And I walk outside, and one of my coworkers, he was there. He was like, you okay? I said, please walk me to my car because I'm scared. In that moment, in that time, they didn't know that, and he died laughing. And my heart was like, oh God, I can't believe I yelled at them, and I can't be outside, and I can't fight. What do I
do? Baby, yeah. You don't say ready for this. You know I have patience.